Good day, my dear students at home. It's nice meeting you once more under this platform where we reach you to prepare you for your forthcoming examinations as NECO and WAEC. Today, we are going to look at the last part of our topic. We have been talking business organizations, where we, in our previous lessons, discussed 4 of them. Today we are going to take a look at the last one, which is public corporations or public enterprises. We will look at the following items as far as this class is concerned. The first one is meaning of public corporations. The second one is features. Third one is sources of capital. The fourth one is advantages. Third one, disadvantages. The fifth one, reasons for establishment of public corporations. And the last but not the least, specific problems that are associated with public corporations. We go to the first one, which is meaning of public corporations. Public corporations are or can be defined as large business organizations set up, owned, and financed by the government to provide essential services to the people at affordable prices. Previously, we talked about the first form of business, which is partnership. Sole proprietorship. Partnership, the second one. The third one, limited liability companies. All these are businesses formed by private individuals, private business men and women. Today, we are going to look at where government comes in to partake in running of a business, and that's what you call public corporations. Government come into business, come into running businesses that are there mainly to provide to the citizens essential services. Essential services. Essential services, I repeat again. Charging prices that are relatively low. The aim here is not profit making like in the case of other forms of businesses. This is just to make essential services available to the public at affordable prices. So whenever you're asked to, for example, say what you understand by public corporations, you must mention these basic 3 things. 1, it is a business owned, financed, run by the government. It is the government that provides the funds. And the government is doing that not for profit making, but to provide essential services to the public at affordable prices. By the time you say this, you are done with your meaning of public corporations or public enterprises or statutory corporations. These 3 names are one and the same. You can call them public corporations, public enterprises, or statutory corporations. Now, having talked about the meaning, there is need for us to just cite 1 or 2 examples where we see government running a particular business. And when we talk about government here, it's important for us to know that we're not talking about a particular government. We're talking about all 3 tiers of government. It can be federal government, state government, or local government. Each of them can participate in running a business with the aim of providing essential services to the public at affordable prices. Example of these corporations are, we have Nigeria Railway Corporation that carries passengers from one place to another. This is an example of public cooperation. Another one is Federal Radio Corporation. Water board that we have that provide us with water. Another example we can think of is transportation. We have seen various bodies established by the government, like Kaduna State Transport Authority, Kaduna State Transport Authority, Zamfara State Transport Authority. All these are businesses that are run by the government. So we now go to features of public corporations. There are so many features. Number one is ownership is by the government, establishing the corporations, whether federal, state, or local government. Number two, they are established by decree or act of parliament. Number three, they are objective. The objective of certain public corporations is not for profit making. It's to provide, like I said, essential services at affordable prices. Number four, it is illegal, or they are legal entities, meaning that they can sue and be sued in case of any problem. Number five, management is usually by board of trustees. The government select board of trustees that are shouldered with the responsibility of running the affairs of the corporations. Another one is they are not profit oriented. We have said that when we are talking about the meaning. It is monopolistic in nature. That is, there is what we call monopoly, because of the fact that they require huge amount of money to operate. They require huge amount of capital. And because the capital needed to run this type of operations, for example, if we take the look of railway, to run a railway line is not an easy task. It requires a lot of money. And because it is sometimes the government that can provide that, it becomes the only source. If you look at the train that is shortly between Abuja and Kaduna, for example, it is run by the government. There is no any private individual that is running that kind of business. And that's why no matter the price, you have to pay, because there is no any other alternative. And that's why we said it is monopolistic in nature, meaning that there is only one seller. There's only one seller, but there are many buyers. Then we have high capital requirement. It requires a lot of money to invest. Before you run corporation, public corporation, you need a lot of money. The next one is employees are civil servants. Government employ people that will work as civil servants. So anyone you see, for example, working with the railway station is a civil servant under the payroll of the government that sets that establishment, that set up that particular corporation, accountable to the government, because it is owned by the government, it is financed by the government, it is run by the government. Of course, the board of directors are accountable to the government. They give account of whatever they do to the government. Last but not the least, there is what you call restriction of service. Corporations, public corporations, normally engage in a particular line of business. They don't take part in several business. Their line of business is usually one, like the railway station, for example, like the Federal Radio Corporation. They are into broadcasting, and that's all. They are not allowed to go into any other thing apart from their actual line of business. These are the features. Then we go to sources of capital quickly. Number one, the capital they get in running this kind of business is normally generated internally from their internally generated revenue. The money they use, the money they get through their operations is normally used as form of capital. For example, if you take the case of the railway station, the railway line, the money they generate through the transport fare people pay, they use that money to service the engines, to buy more coaches, so on and so forth. Then we have grants from the government establishing them. The government that established them can give them money in form of grants, which they will use to run the enterprises or the corporations. The next one is grants from international financial institutions. There are institutions that are internationally known. They are there to finance things of this nature, businesses of this nature. They help government to improve the lives of their or of its citizens. Another one is grants from foreign countries. The last one is bank loans and overdrafts. Bank loans and then bank overdrafts. We have discussed this in our previous lessons when we were talking about sources of capital to all the other forms of businesses that we talk about. The sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability, company, and of course, the cooperative societies. So we will not waste time here to talk about them anymore. We'll go to the next item, which is advantages of public corporations. There are so many advantages. The first one is provision of essential services. There are services that are very essential to the citizens that if left in the hands of private businesses, the charges will be high. The prices these businessmen will place on those goods or services will be very high. And that's why government comes to provide them and then provide them at affordable prices, just like we said. Number two, prevention of exploitation and discrimination. Exploitation. When businessmen are allowed to run businesses that require huge amount of money, the problem that is likely to arise is not everybody that will go into that business. And there is likelihood that only one will be left there. And by the time one is left there, he is going to be a monopoly. He is going to be practicing monopoly. And as a monopolist, he is going to charge any price because he knows you don't have any other choice. But government comes in to provide those services so as to prevent private individuals, private businessmen from becoming monopolists and charging people over and above the price that is needed or the price that they can afford. Then we have another advantage, which is very, very key: creation of more employment opportunities. Government supposed to be provider of employment. By setting public corporations, people are opportune to be engaged, to be gainfully employed, thereby getting their source of livelihood. And we have protection of some strategic industries. There are industries that are very, very strategic in the economy as a whole. Government needs to come in order to protect those industries. By setting public corporations, they help in protecting those strategic industries from collapsing. Because if they are left to the hands of private individuals, like we said, the money required, the capital required is huge, they may not be able to survive. Government come in to finance and establish such important industries so that everything in the economy will be moving and moving as expected. The next one is economic development, where we have public cooperation, businesses set by government, people are employed, production is taking place everywhere, here and there, people are engaged, people are getting work to do, jobs here and there. You will see the economy, generally, the macro economy of the country will definitely rise, unlike where there is none. People will be unemployed, there will be crisis here and there. There is higher standard of living because some people get what they want to buy at affordable prices. Instead of spending money to buy only one, they use the same money to buy two different items or services. Their standard of living is definitely going to be increased. And that's what you call, the next point is even distribution of services. Even distribution of services. The government look at this whole society, the whole country, and see what will be done here and there to touch the lives of everybody. To touch the life of everybody. If you look at, for example, the rail line that we have today, the rich and the poor, everybody is using the train because of the price, which is relatively cheap. The last but not the least, affordable and cheap services. Services are made available. Not only made available, they are made available with affordable charges. Now, these are the advantages. We go to these are the advantages. One, lack of choice by consumers as a result of monopoly. Lack of choice. We have even mentioned this when we were talking about monopoly the other time. Where we have only one provider, one seller of a particular service with many buyers, it means that whether you like it or not, as far as you want to use that service, you must go there. Whether the price is okay or not. That's what you mean by lack of choice by consumers. Consumers are not given the opportunity to make choice between service 1, service 2, or service A, service B. There is frequent interference by the government. Because it is owned by the government, because it is financed by the government interferes into the activities of these corporations in many ways. Policies come in sometimes in terms of selecting who will be the board of directors. That's just what we are talking about here. Then we have high level of corruption by officials running these corporations. Some officials who are corrupt tend to misuse the funds that are made available in running these corporations. Instead of the money allocated to be used appropriately, they go and make other things with the money. Then we have high level of inefficiency in terms of management. In terms of management, because sometimes, like we have said, it is the government that selects who will be the board of directors. Sometimes they select based on political interests, based on party inclination, regardless of whether the person merited to be there or not, and thereby bringing about inefficiency in terms of managing the corporations. The next one is high level of bureaucracy, formalities. Before a particular thing is done, it has to, of course, a government-owned business, a lot of write-ups need to be done. You write here, it has to go through this table, from this table to another table, and before you know it, so many things will be standstill. The next one is neglect of private sector by the government. The government sometimes neglects private sector. Why? Because they have their own businesses. They tend to pay more attention to the businesses which they have, instead of giving the private sector the attention needed. They tend not to give the private sector the attention they need. That's just about the advantages. Now we go quickly to the next item, reasons for establishment of public corporations. Why the government come to set up public corporations? We have mentioned some of them. They are already here as a point. Number one, because of high capital requirement. The money required to establish this type of corporations, like we said, is very high. It's not everybody that can go into it. Businessmen don't have the money to venture into this kind of business, and that's why government come in, because the government knows that yes, the citizens need to have these services which are very important or essential. Two, generation of capital, generation of revenue. It serves as a source of revenue to the government. Only God knows how much this rail line that we have today, only God knows how much is generated through that particular corporation. Preventing foreign dominance of the economy. Instead of us to allow people from outside to come and establish companies, the government come in to establish them. Another one is avoiding wasteful competition and duplication. Wasteful competition. If you allow businessmen to do some certain businesses, as they enter into such businesses, you see a lot of competitions, duplications that are sometimes unnecessary, that sometimes lead to wastage. Now, the next one is prohibition of infrastructure facilities. Anywhere there is a corporation, there is a particular business set up by the government, you will see the government will try to provide certain essential services like electricity, roads, water, so on and so forth. Preventing monopoly. We have even said this too. Prohibition of essential services is also mentioned in our discussion. Another one is ensuring even distribution of economy. If you look at this, some of the reasons here we mentioned are almost the same with the advantages. They appear as advantages and also appear as reasons why we set up public corporations. My dear students, with this, we have come to the end of our class with you as far as forms of business is concerned, as far as business organizations is concerned. Thank you very much for giving me your time, your attention. But before I go, as usual, let us need for us to just recap of what we have just said. And my colleague, Madam Zainab Abdul Karim, is coming to do that. Thank you once more. Have a nice time.
Thank you, Malam Abbas, for discussing public cooperation. Now, I want to summarize some of the things that Malam Abbas taught us. Now we go to the summary segment. 1. Malam Abbas also mentioned the meaning of public cooperation. He said they are business organizations set by the government, owned by the government, and financed by the government to provide essential services to the people, especially to the masses in the country. He also mentioned their futures as its objectives is not for making profit, it's just to help the masses. Also, he mentioned their sources of capital as government generate the funds for this public corporation. 2, he also mentioned that sometimes they get loans and overdraft, and sometimes they get loan from foreign country. Then we go to other areas he covered. He also mentioned the advantages and disadvantages of public cooperation. He said it provides essential services to the people. He also mentioned it is not for profit making and others. He also mentioned disadvantages of public cooperation. In most cases, people see government property as nobody's property. So sometimes there is mismanagement from the board of directors or the people running the public corporation. Then he also mentioned the reasons for the establishment of public corporation. He said to prevent foreign dominance of the economy, and he also mentioned to provide essential service to the people. Then he also mentioned specific problems associated with public cooperation. He also mentions some specific problems associated with public cooperation as interference from the government, and also political instability, and also mismanagement from the people running the affairs of the corporation and others. Now we go to the assignment segments. The first one is suggest 5 reasons why Kaduna State government should create additional public corporation. That is very interesting. State 5 reasons why Kaduna State government should create additional public corporations. State 5 reasons why Kaduna State government should create additional public corporations. Now, we have contact numbers where you can contact us if you have any problem or you want us to discuss more and to send your assignments to us. The first one is Malam Abbas Shehu, is 081 001 27508. And the next one is Zeno Abdul Karim, 080 32 84 7167. The contact numbers to send your questions and your answers is one, Malam Abbas Shehu, 081 00127508, and Zeno Abdul Karim, 080 32 84 7167. Thanks for being with us. We hope to see you again. Thank you.